Hello, 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 and thank you once again for tuning in to my podcast, Real Talk About Life and Relationships with me, your host, Coach Stephanie K. I am a multi-certified and master life and relationship coach. I'm also an author, a mother. I have other businesses and a lot of other stuff going on. The topic that I want to discuss today is how women express love in relationships. I think some of this might be self-explanatory, but I always like to give a little bit more information, a little deeper insight into it, just so we have the again insight and tools to now navigate our own relationships, whether it's men or women. But before I get into the topic today, I want to remind you guys to follow me on my social media platforms. The main ones are Facebook and YouTube. But I am on Instagram sometimes, and I'm also on LinkedIn sometimes. So I just say Facebook and YouTube. That's where you can find the most of my episodes, my past episodes, and things like that. Leave comments and things like that, and then I can respond to you. And then my show comes on every Thursday at 12 p.m. So tune into my show again, Real Talk About Life Relationships. I'm trying to give people some really, really good, honest, genuine healing information because there's a lot of junk out there on social media that tries to tries to steer you in a certain direction. And I want to be a voice out there that's giving people real stuff because we need this stuff. It's like so essential to our life. I say that all the time. I probably will continue to say it. This is the type of stuff that we should be taught in school, but we're not. We're taught about career and surviving, navigating life, how to make money for ourselves, not to be healthy, functional, happy people, and then have healthy, functional, happy relationships. They're starting to bring that stuff into the school system a little bit more, which I do appreciate. But we just really, you can never overteach this stuff because you're always growing in different levels of it, understanding different levels of it, needing more information about it. Like it just never ends. And so if you are interested in any of this information, again, you can watch my past shows. You can also reach out to me personally on those social media platforms or on my website, which is www.unveilingthespirit.com to get more information about me, my courses, sign up for a free session, and then just email me if you have any questions or comments of your own that you would like some perspective on. So you can also watch my show on the Roku, the iStore, or the Google Play through a app called the Entertainment Theater app. There's a lot of stuff out there for independent creators. There's a lot of stuff on that platform for independent creators. So you can check out past episodes of my show as well as supporting us little people who are trying to make our mark in the world as well and do what we're created to do. Right? Sometimes I don't like this idea that in order to do what you were created to do with your talent and gift, you got to go through all these corporate, this jump through all these hoops. You got to have all this money. Like sometimes it's frustrating because it's just a natural thing for you to do that you should just be able to do it. But we got to jump through all these hoops and compete. And, the more money you have, the more exposure you get, and stuff like that. So I do really appreciate the creator of the Entertainment Theater app for giving people who are trying to get started and don't necessarily have the means to compete with those bigger platforms a space to grow themselves. So that's my show. I'm on every Thursday, and I think that's it. My little intro. So what I want to talk about today is how women express love in relationships. This is kind of a series that I'm doing about what is love. So it started off as like, what is love? So I went into what I feel like love is. I have knowledge and information to back it up if you're interested in that. But I was basically saying that love is about growth. Life is about growth. Relationships are about growth. And so everything that has to do with us is about anything that has anything to do with us that means anything, has to do with our mental, emotional, spiritual, and sometimes even our physical growth. And instead of saying physical growth, I'll say physical health, because that's, to me, a part of it. So you cannot love is essential to that. I mean, you cannot express love without helping something grow. Even like I gave the example in that episode, that your pets, your children, everything that you love, when you take care of it and you interact with it, you have a relationship with it, you are contributing to its growth. If you're not doing that, you do not love that thing. Like, you can't just say you love something and the word gets thrown around a lot. And so people have a lot of different definitions of it. But the core of it is that you contribute to and make sacrifices for that person's growth. And so if you're not doing that, it does not matter how much you say the word. It does not matter how much you feel. It matters how you act and how you express it. And if you do that, if you don't do that, you don't love them. So you need to double check your feelings of love or your behavior of love with what it actually means. Am I hurting this person? Am I breaking them down? Am I a benefit to their life? Am I helping them grow? So that's what love is. And I go into much more detail about that show. And so the next thing I got into was what is self-love, because a lot of times we think about love in terms of giving it to other people, just like I said. But we cannot love people more than we love ourselves. So we have to learn to love ourselves and what that means to love ourselves to equip us to understand what it means to love and take care of another person. And so then I talked about that and I gave practical tips on how you can love yourself. And then now I'm getting into how women express love in relationships. And then I'm going to do a show and have a couple guests on about how men express love in relationships. I want to have some women on express love in relationships too. So I'll be doing that. And then when I get done with how women express love, how men express love, then I'm going to talk about love when it comes to parenting, because yeah. Those of you parents who know, especially teenagers, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, so how women express love in relationships. So I want to say that it seems to me, and I know I'm speaking from my own perspective, and I try to be open-minded because I know everybody has different perspectives, and I think everybody's perspective has some value, How much value is a different question, but it does have some value, even if it's nothing more than that is how that person sees stuff. And if you want to communicate with them, you have to start from where they are able to understand stuff, as opposed to kind of like railroading them with your own thoughts. Like, it doesn't work. If your goal is to communicate, you have to start with the language that they speak, if you can. Now, and I'm not saying you have to be perfect at it and you don't have your own language, but when two people are starting off from there when it comes to communicating, that is the highest atmosphere where information can be passed and absorbed, if that makes any sense. So, but to me, it kind of seems like it's self-explanatory, because women are natural nurturers. And so we express our love, I would say, very easily, very obviously. Again, like, people might think it's self-explanatory, but I do want to dive into it a little bit. But women are nurturers. And so, of course, I'm a Christian, so I go back to the Bible, that's what God created us to be. That's why we carry the child inside of us, because that is our spiritual makeup, is to be a nurturer. We carry life, we nurture life, we help things grow. And so, you have the saying that you can't turn a house into a home. A woman turns a house into a home because she brings her nurturing into that. And a very big part of nurturing is love, because if you're going to, you can't nurture without it. You can't nurture somebody with hate, because that's not nurturing. Now, you might be just messing up the person, because you can pour hate and influence. You can influence other people with your hate, but that's going to cause them damage. That's not nurturing. Nurturing is helping something to grow. And so we naturally do that even without thinking about it. And so I like to, I feel like human beings are, I will say this, they are embodiments of parts of God, put it like that. And so the thing about it is that we just are conscious. So if you can think about it in this way, and hopefully I don't get too deep and kind of lose some people, because I can do that sometimes. If you think about a hammer, hammer was created, of course, to hammer things, nails. But the hammer is an object. It doesn't think, it doesn't feel. It just, you use it when you want to use it and you put it up. We are objects, for lack of a better word, because we have purposes. We were created for certain things, but we're aware. So we're conscious. We can think, we can move. You don't put us on a shelf when you're done with us. We're still walking around, talking, eating, growing, laughing, stuff like that. but we are tools, for lack of a better word. And those tools are characteristics of God. And so he created us, like the Bible talks about, that Jesus was the word of God. So God's word is conscious. It talks, it moves, it has a will, it's self-aware. So we're the same thing. So in that capacity, women represent the nurturing nature of God. Clearly he's a nurturer. Look at the planet. He wants us all to grow. And so women represent that. So we, in our spiritual DNA, we are nurturers. And that is why we carry children inside of us, because that is our divine purpose, divine, I don't know exactly how to say it, but I hope you follow me. So that's what we are. But the problem is, because some people might say, well, every woman that I met is not nurturing. Well, women can get damaged, and then their supernatural state gets distorted. And then we also start off as, if you want to say, a mini nurturer, and we also have to be nurtured in order to grow fully into our own gift, to understand exactly how to use it. And so, but naturally, it comes to us more natural than it does to men. So that would be the best way to go about it. So we are naturally prone to nurture the things around us, turn the house into a home, carrying a child. We eat, we take care of ourselves when we're pregnant, hopefully, and then we produce this baby. When we get pregnant, it is not a conscious thought. It's not like, okay, body, I'm going to receive the semen to create, you don't even know how it happened. Science tells us how it happens now, but we had no knowledge of how it happened. It just happens. And so that is the same thing when it comes to women. We're just naturally like that. It just happens. And so you don't really have to think that too much about it. If you have trouble doing that, then it's probably because of you being damaged in some way. You need to do that so your natural nature can come forth. So with that being said, women being nurturers and taking care of things and helping things to grow, the main part of that is, in order for you to nurture something, you have to understand what it needs. And so if you don't understand what it needs, then you're not going to nurture it correctly. So women, especially healthy women, will naturally look out for what you need. And that is how they express love and relationship. They're using their gifting, they're using their supernatural state towards you specifically, because we're conscious. So we can use our gifts when we want to, we can turn off when we want to, we can, so we're taking what comes natural to us and we're directing it towards a person that we love. And so that is our natural state, supernatural state, is to be a nurturer. And to be a nurturer means to grow things. In order to grow things, you need to understand what it needs. So women will automatically, sometimes without even thinking about it, look for what you need. You can look at it in terms of a child, like, when they always, the saying that mother's intuition, like when a woman has a baby, a lot of the time, what the baby needs without the baby saying what it needs, of course, because it can't talk. Men are not as in tune with that because they don't have that nurturing ability, because the woman is going to be picking up on all the different cues and things like that she might not even be consciously processing to say, okay, this baby needs this, and then provide it. And so in order to do that, to see the needs and start providing it, that is the beginning of how you begin to nurture. And so the same thing is in relationships. And so they talk, I've heard people say that when women are in love, they start to act like a mom. I don't completely agree with that, but there is some truth to it, because you're going to, just like a baby, try to see what your husband or your man needs and start trying to provide those needs for him. And so, and that's how you get to women wanting to cook for men and, making sure he goes to the doctor and, just really stepping in there, buying him clothes, buying him things that he needs. You're going to start doing those things naturally when you love somebody, because that is what women do. And so if you're around a woman, or you are a woman that is not doing that, or you get into a relationship and you're only thinking about yourself and what you can get and what you like and all that type of stuff, and you're not really even consciously or unconsciously looking out for the need of the man that you're with, or even the people that are around you, then I would say you don't love that person. And so you have to, again, keep that in check. We always want to use the things around us as a check and balance system to understand if what we think and feel is correct. And when you don't do that, sometimes that's how you are insecure, and you have to be careful about it because you can't take in everything, but that's a whole different conversation. So that's what women do. So I know for me, I can speak for myself. When I love a man, I automatically want to start taking care of him, and I look for the needs that he has so that I can start trying to provide them. And so that can be in the form of food, clothes, spending time, sex, taking his lunch to work, picking him up, whatever it is that he needs. Then you start trying to provide that. Now, the problem is when you start trying to provide unhealthy things, because I've seen a lot of women in attempt to take care of their man, start providing things for him that are not healthy for him. And so again, you have to understand when your nurturing nature is getting out of whack, because now as you provide those unhealthy things, you're now not contributing to his growth. You are just trying to make him happy, which is a problem. And so a lot of times people get into relationships and they feel like the goal is to make the other person happy. No, it's not, because we don't grow by being happy. And that's why, again, I talked about this before, God allows bad things to happen to us so that we can grow. Because if we just sit around, and again, I talked about this before as well with the cartoon WALL-E, we just sit around and eat and just be happy and do everything we want, we'll become lazy, you know what I'm saying, and stupid. So that's not love. A lot of people mix that up and think that to make somebody happy is showing love. No, it's not, because they're not growing. You are destroying the person. So if you're putting their happiness above their growth, you don't actually love them. And that's why the Bible says if you don't discipline your children, you don't actually love them, because you're not contributing to their growth. And you're not thinking about how it's going to affect them in the long run and how they're going to suffer in the long run because you're not helping them to grow. And so I've seen women who will do that and contribute to a man's happiness as opposed to his growth. And that's a problem. And so, and then also, a lot of women that do it out of fear and trying to get their own needs met, thinking that if they meet the other person's need, that then their needs going to be met. And a lot of time when that doesn't happen, it creates a problem, which I will get to in a minute. But I'm basically boiling it down to, you want to contribute to the man's growth, because when you contribute to somebody's growth, they're not always going to like it, especially when you're raising kids. You're contributing to their growth, you're trying to keep them safe and stuff like that. They resist it. They don't want it. And so a lot of times in relationships, you have to do things to your husband or your boyfriend or whatever to push them to grow when they probably don't want to. But if you care about them, their makeup as a human being, you're going to want to see them grow. And so you'll challenge them, you'll point things out to them. And of course, there are wrong and right ways to do that. But you're going to be invested in their growth and be willing to be uncomfortable and have them be upset with you for a period of time if it means that they're going to grow in the long run or even in the short run. And so you don't want to get that mixed up as far as like happiness and growth. And so a woman is going to naturally do that, look for things that she needs to meet. But again, as a woman, you also have to keep that in check to make sure you're not towing the line of just making the person happy, or your own brokenness or issues is coming out through your expressions of love in an unhealthy way. And for example, if you're idolizing your husband and you're feeling like you can't be happy unless he's happy, and then you do know. So it's a lot of issues that go with that, which is why I started with self-love first, because you have to know how to love and take care of yourself first before you to take care of other people in a healthy way, not an unhealthy way. So women will look for your needs and stuff like that. And so that's how they typically express love in relationship. They'll buy their husband things, surprise him, stuff like that. And so I'm trying to see if I'm missing sense. So if you have a woman that's not doing that, it's a problem. She either does not love you, or she's not capable of loving you because she's not a healthy person herself. Because what do I always say? If anybody's been following me, watching me, what do I always say? Unhealthy people cannot have healthy relationships. So yeah. Okay, so I do want to add that like I said, it's kind of self-explanatory, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but that's basically the gist of it when it comes to women, is that they're trying to meet your needs and help you grow. And we can go into all these different facets, which I'm going to have some ladies on to talk about their own ways that they express love in relationships. But I kind of want to lay the groundwork with this one. One thing I will say, and this is for even men and women watching, this can become a problem in relationships because women are naturally like that. And when men are not, women take it as the man does not love them. Because men are not as intuitive. They're not necessarily looking for to meet all your little needs like a woman does. And so when a woman, and then the thing about a woman doing that is that you don't necessarily have to tell her all the time. She's going to do it automatically. She's going to see that your wallet is raggedy and then get you another wallet, or that you need, to eat better and start helping you with your food, or, that you need a hug or something. She's going to be looking for those things. And so it's very unspoken. But when you have women expect men to do that to them in return, to express their own love. But men are not as intuitive as women. They don't pick up on that stuff as women, and like women does. And so it's very easy for a woman to think, okay, he doesn't love me because he's not doing what I'm doing. And then you don't want to have to say it. And then you just get an attitude, and because you feel like, well, you didn't say it to me, I want you to pick up on what I need the same way I pick up on what you need. But men are not women. And we have to understand that and cut them some slack when it comes to that, because they just don't have the intuitive nature. And if you ever see a man with a child, not all men, and a woman with a child and a man with a child, you can see very quickly that they are not as intuitive as women. For example, when it comes to nurturing, a woman will make sure a kid is eating 3 meals a day, healthy, make sure they get some vegetables and fruit in there because they're contributing to the growth of the child. And the man will just give the kid cookies. Be done, hey, eat cookies, eat ice cream, make sure, And so they just don't have it. And it's not bad. We were created different for a reason. We bring the nurturing nature to the table. They bring the other nature to the table. And so you don't have to take it personally when they're not picking up on your needs like you do to them. But you do have to learn how to communicate with them so that they understand it. Now, if you talk to them and you tell them what you need and stuff like that, and then they don't, pay it any heed, that's a different conversation. But for the most part, you don't want to get caught up thinking that men don't love you because they don't have the same nurturing nature as you do. So sometimes when we get frustrated, oh, you didn't think about me, you didn't think about me, you didn't think about me. And you can say something. Just make sure you say it in the right way. You're not coming from a place of anger or frustration or bitterness or whatever. Just try to communicate with the man to help him speak your language. And this is what you need. And the more you do that, the more he will begin to grow to understand what you need. So, and that's how you have a relationship. That's how relationship is all communication. Like, it can't happen. Like, even the organs in your body have to communicate with each other, because if one is trying to do something that the other one is supposed to do, blah, 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 you become unhealthy. And so communication is key in any part of life, whether it's trees and dirt or animals. And, we all have to communicate together to some degree on some level in order to make this whole thing work. And so you can think of a relationship as like your own personal mini ecosystem, and you need to communicate with who you're with in order for you guys to both do what you need to do to help each other grow. That's the main point. So yeah. So you have to, even though you have that nurturing nature, and I also want to add this, even though you have that nurturing nature as women, and we pick up on your needs, that does not mean everything you're picking up on is correct. And that does not mean that there are not other things that you're not picking up on that they need. And so even though you have that nurturing nature and you want to do those things automatically, and as a nurturer, we are more prone to extend ourselves because that's our nature. So we don't think about, I don't want to say we don't think about ourselves as much, because I've met a lot of selfish women, but it's easier for us to extend ourselves, I believe, than men. I mean, when you are a being that has to share your body with another being, men don't experience that. They don't experience something, basically taking the food out of their stomach when they eat it for themselves. So we have to share ourselves, we extend ourselves, because you can't really be a good nurturer without doing that. But because we do that, that does not mean that everything we think and feel is correct. So you have to be willing, even in your nurturing nature, to still ask the man what he needs that you might be missing. And the man also, like, you need to communicate with him. He needs to communicate with you and say what he needs, or, you know what, I really like it when you do this, but I like this, or whatever. And it's not like you have to stop doing what you were doing, but also to include the things that fill up his love tank, so to speak, too. Because it's nothing, it's almost, I want to say, undignified when you just assume what a person needs without letting them speak for themselves. It's a form of dignity. So it's like, I know I've seen women that kind of in this feministic type of mentality, they don't want the door to be held for them and stuff like that. So men are naturally stronger than women. So when it comes to doing things that require more strength, they are more prone to express their love through their strength, because that's what comes natural to them. They know that they're stronger and, you know, stuff like that. So you don't have to take them opening the door for you or doing heavy lifting for you, like, hey, get out the way, you trying to say I'm weak, I'll do it myself. No, scientifically speaking, they are stronger than you, and they're expressing their love through the strength that they were given by God, the same way you're expressing your nurturing gift that was given by God to them. So you can have men, you know, that do that, but you don't want to assume everything. So ask them, because, I was saying, I'm sorry, I got off track a little bit. It's a little bit undignified. So if you go to a restaurant, like I was talking about women in this more feministic mentality, if they don't want men to do stuff for them because they think and seeing it as something negative. So an example of that, I would hear women say, when they go to a restaurant, the man orders for them. And so the woman is like, why are you ordering my food? And so you didn't even ask me what I wanted. And so it is, the man might look at it like he knows you so well that he can pick out food for you and you'll like it. But men don't understand that sometimes that is, unless you've been with somebody for a long time and you really, really know what they want to eat already, it's undignified for you to not let them express their human being needs and preferences, and to just assume and basically put yours over theirs and say what they need without letting them speak for themselves. We are all individual free will beings, and one of the things that is most important to us is to exercise our free will and have the dignity of being seen and heard. And when you assume things without asking people what they need, you are robbing them of that dignity. And so you don't want to just assume that everything you're doing right when it comes to the man is exactly on point. You want to ask him so that he can tell you himself, okay, because you know you have the love languages, so people feel or express love in different ways. And so you want to understand what he needs. He might not care about you bringing him his plate of food every day, but he might want you to stop and spend some more time with him and not be in the kitchen all the time, you know, stuff like that. And I know that's kind of like a frivolous example, but I just want you to get your wheels churning and thinking about, you know, asking people what they need and what they want, in addition to you kind of picking up on things and trying to meet their needs that way, because every man is not the same. So you don't want to make your gift like, oh, now you don't need to ask. You just do it. Ask, because you might be surprised. It might be way easier than what you're doing. Like, I saw a video of this woman and she's fixing all this food for this man, and she's saying this is what she does for her husband every morning. She gets up at 3 a.m. She's making pork chops and greens and all this type of stuff for him to take to work. I mean, she's putting vitamins in his bag and, you know, juice and cake. And I mean, a buffet for lunch at work. You know what I'm saying? And she's saying this is what she does to show that she loves her husband. But if she acts, and I'm not saying she didn't, he'd probably say, you don't need to do all that for me. I'm straight with a sandwich. You know what I'm saying? So now she's waking up 3, 4 in the morning thinking she's doing all this to express her love. But he's saying, you know what? You don't need to. I would rather you take that energy that you spend making all that food and just go to a basketball game with me. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. So you have to consider what they want as well. And then the last thing that I want to say before I wrap up on how women express their love in relationships is, you need to, when it comes to trying to provide the needs of a man, you need to make sure you're also not towing the line of trying to prove your love to them, because proving your love comes from a dysfunctional place, because it automatically puts them on a higher level than you, that now in order to have them, you need to prove something to them for them to accept you. that means you typically have low self-esteem, low image, so self-image, and those things are also going to play out in other parts of your relationship. And then you can overly invest yourself into that person, and then when they reject you, you're going to be a hot, stinking, stupid mess. And so again, self-love first, take care of yourself first, understand what healthy needs look like first, and then you'll be able to better understand the needs of other people, and also not bring dysfunctional stuff into your relationships and contaminate it, because relationships are very, very difficult. Now, I know a lot about relationships. I know a lot about how the human mind works, our hearts, and how all those stuff is connected to our identity and all this type of stuff. But relationships are still not easy for me. Anybody who tells you relationships are easy for them, I suggest you run in the opposite direction, especially if they're trying to give you some advice, because relationships are not easy. They're not meant to be easy. They're a learning and growing process. And if you really want to be a healthy person and contribute to another person healthily, and you guys be healthy together, and you get that companionship and that affection and all that stuff that comes with it, you have to understand, you have to put the work in, you have to understand yourself, and you have to be healthy yourself. So that's it for today when it comes to how women express love in relationships. I got some other stuff coming, so make sure you join me, continue to join me, share this content, especially if it's something that you know of somebody that needs to hear it, or you got something from it yourself. Until then, have a great week, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week at 12 p.m. on Thursday, and for more about how women express love in relationships. And that's it. So thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.